Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. This next segment is sure to be taken down from YouTube and
Oh, that's right. We
all
just got
social
back
media
up.
because we're going to challenge some of the pronouncements from the Biden administration and Dr. Murthy's Ministry of Truth as it pertains to social media, misinformation, the Delta variant, and the like. By the way, Dr. Murthy, the Minister of Truth, disagreeing with former FDA Commissioner Dr. Scott Gottlieb about the mask mandate in L.A. County. Murthy saying it certainly makes sense in the light of the spike in cases associated with the Delta variant. Dr. Scott Gottlieb saying quite the opposite.
I don't think it's the right move. I don't think you can tell people who've been vaccinated that they have to wear a mask. I think, quite frankly, it's likely to be the exception. I think you're likely to see very few states and municipalities do this because there's not going to be a lot of support for mandates at this point. People who are worried about COVID have largely been vaccinated. I realize not everyone has been able to get vaccinated, but most people have been vaccinated who are worried about this infection. And people who remain unvaccinated aren't worried about the infection and don't want to be wearing masks either. Now, the bottom line is that means this is just going to spread through the population. And that's why the models look so bad. There's some models being worked on right now. CDC has one, I'm told, that show an increasing epidemic, a wave of infection from this Delta variant moving through the population over the next 2 months. Those models, the assumptions built into those models is no mitigation. No mandates for masks, no closures of businesses. I think that's likely to be the norm. And also, you know, when you get vaccinated, you're less likely to spread the infection, less likely to contract the infection. So people who are vaccinated aren't putting the population, by and large, at risk. So telling them that they have to wear masks indoors, I think it creates a disincentive to go out and get vaccinated in the first place.
It's interesting that he properly describes it as less likely to transmit, less likely to get infected. Oh, you mean something's not fail-safe? Oh, you mean there's an assessment there? There's a trade-off to be done. Sort of like the trade-off of saying, let's see, the COVID survival rate under the age of 70, case infection rate, survival rate is 99.95%. Maybe I'm not so interested in the vaccine if I'm otherwise young and healthy. Is that kind of trade-off where you're looking at percentages in a imperfect world? For more on the topic, we're pleased to be joined by Dr. Reed Spaulding, who's a contributor to the American Spectator, practicing pathologist. All opinions expressed are his and not those of his employer. Hopefully that will do enough to insulate him from Dr. Murthy's Ministry of Truth. Dr. Spaulding, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. Good to be with you.
So the models, the Delta variant, and particularly against the backdrop of news out of Israel, Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett saying, we do not know exactly to what degree the vaccine helps, but it is significantly less the mRNA vaccines with the Delta variant.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's somewhat less, but it's still protecting against severe disease, right? It's still protecting people against having to go to the hospital or, from dying. So it still offers good protection, the vaccines do, against the variant. The most important thing to keep in mind about the variant is that they don't have the fatality rates that the Alpha variant had, right? It's more contagious, but it's also less likely to kill you. So there is a silver lining with the Delta variant as it spreads through the population.
Well, what do you think about the LA County now enforcing masks, whether you're vaccinated or not, indoors?
Well, I think it's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, I echo the comments that you just played from Scott Gottlieb. I mean, what's the point of telling people that they need to get a vaccine if then they have to go around living life like they didn't, right? It makes no sense. It does nothing but disenfranchise people who maybe still haven't got vaccinated, who are on the fence. I mean, I can't imagine there's that many of those left, but if they are, if they still have to wear a mask, what's the point? That's what they're thinking when they hear that type of policy come down in L.A., so it's nonsense.
Well, the other thing, too, is, I mean, just to put an underline on your statement that it's less lethal than the Alpha iteration of COVID-19. Well, that's not what I'm receiving when I hear social media is killing people with misinformation, and I hear that the unvaccinated, it's an epidemic among the unvaccinated, and people are going to die, be hospitalized and die, and so on and so forth. I don't hear that texture you provided about it being less lethal very often.
Well, no, because that goes against the campaign of trying to encourage people to get vaccinated. I mean, I think for adults, it makes a lot of sense to get this vaccine. I've been saying it since day one, especially for adults who are elderly or who have underlying conditions that predispose them to a bad outcome from COVID. But I think that's been the problem from public health officials this whole time. They haven't been giving it to people straight. And when you don't give it to people straight, when you only present some of the data and not all of the data, when people catch on to that, they don't trust you anymore. And, we need to have faith in our public health officials, and they've done a lot of damage, I think, to their credibility, at least a lot of them have, over the past year and a half.
Well, why haven't they stressed to the American people, I don't care if they're Republican or Democrat, hey, talk to your doctor and, converse with your doctor to see whether or not you should get the vaccine, instead of this, get the vaccine or you're not going to have your freedoms?
Well, I don't know. I think it goes just back to the nature maybe of, the bureaucracy in general. I think you're going to have a bigger fight, though, coming up when you start talking about this being authorized for young kids, which, they're currently doing the clinical trials I'm working on. I think that's a trickier question, at least for me. The risk-benefit of young children getting this vaccine, I don't know for sure that comes out to where it makes sense that they should get it. I mean, a young child's risk, and when I say young, I mean 10 or under, their risk of dying from a COVID infection is 0.002%. That's what one meta-analysis I've read said. So, when you're talking numbers like that, then you start having to ask yourself, well, what are the side effects? How sick is little, Johnny or Susie going to be from just the vaccine itself? And
Right.
What's the trade-off there? It's not apparent to me at all that everybody needs to go out and get, this shot for their 5-year-old, because this isn't a disease of 5-year-olds, right? It's a disease of 95-year-olds.
Yeah, that's the
At least
conversation.
when we're talking about bad outcomes.
Yeah, that's the conversation we've been trying to have about this for months on end, and just very few people seem willing to engage on that. Maybe it's because everything is drowned out by such statements like St. Fauci made over the weekend, that with the level of misinformation out there today about the vaccines, we could not have eradicated smallpox or polio.
Oh, well, I don't think that's the case at all, because those were, having very harsh impacts on children. I mean, well, people were craving a polio vaccine because it was devastating to children's lives, right? So if COVID was killing high numbers of children, God forbid, you would definitely have people feeling different about it. But it's like, I kind of compare it to the flu, right? I mean, flu is 3 to 4 times more deadly for children than COVID is. We don't make them get the flu vaccine every year. We don't make them wear masks in school every year. We don't do any of these things. And it's, when you put it in the context of that, people need to just take it in stride and realize, exactly what we're talking about here, the population that's most affected by this, and take all the data in. Don't just focus on the narrative.
Over the weekend, Dr. Vivek Murthy, he's the Surgeon General, don't you know, was asked by Dana Bash if Fox News and other right-wing outlets are killing people with misinformation. Sort of a remarkable position that Dr. Murthy's taking with, and the Biden administration generally, with respect to alleged misinformation. They want social media to come in and clamp down on people who say things that ask uncomfortable questions, or even say things that are untrue. And my question earlier in the show, I'll put it to you, is, so science is predicated on testing hypotheses, which are educated guesses. So if you can't communicate things that may or may not be true, may turn out to be not true, and have debate about them in open forum, then doesn't that have a chilling effect on the pursuit of knowledge and understanding what is and isn't true?
Certainly, yeah. I mean, the ability to have an open debate about issues is pretty central to everything, I think, in this country, whether it be science or, talk about civil liberties or any of it. I don't really understand the push behind all the censoring that they're trying to do. I mean, I think you could argue that some of what they put out is misinformation, or at least not the complete information, right? They only put out certain things that make their agenda, that further it, but they leave out some important details as well. For instance, to go back to the Delta variant, yes, it is true that in areas of the country that aren't vaccinated, there are little pockets of outbreaks that are firing up. I was reading in Arkansas where I think only 30-something% of adults are vaccinated. They're having an increase in cases, a lot of those being the Delta variant, but they leave out the fact that it's less lethal than
Right.
the original variant. And that's how, that's just kind of a concept in evolutionary virology, that if something becomes more transmissible, the trade-off for that virus is it's typically less virulent, less likely to kill you. So I think we're all getting a real-time education in evolution, really, as this thing unfolds.
So, something else too on vaccinations, just in terms of this misinformation thing. So it's all the focus is on so-called right-wing outlets and asking questions or even expressing skepticism. And yet, when you look at the distribution in America by race in terms of vaccination levels, Asians, 62%, whites, 47%, Hispanics, 39%, blacks, 34%. So, I mean, it's sort of unlikely that Fox would be driving down the percentage of vaccinations among blacks or Latinos, given the relative composition of their audiences to the more left-leaning outlets, too. So, I mean, it just fails sort of on the logic of it. But it also speaks to, it's a cultural issue, not just a public health informational issue. You can listen to Tony Fauci or you can listen to somebody else, but there's still other variables that go into these individual decisions that are being made at the micro level. And that's something else that we don't hear our government commissars really contemplate.
Right. I think in general, they want people to feel divided, and I think in a lot of ways they're succeeding. I mean, you take these latest recommendations that I was writing about from the CDC, that the kids under 12 that aren't vaccinated need to keep wearing masks in the fall. Whether or not that happens to your child probably largely depends on if there's a governor in charge of your state, or if it's a Democrat governor or a Republican governor. And it shouldn't be that, it should just be the fact that, 1 in 50,000 kids dies with COVID, and make your decision based on that, not based on politics.
Do you think that politicians are, not telling us the truth about the Delta variant, so in order to scare people to get vaccinated and get their kids vaccinated?
I think that they are leaving out that fact because were they to say that on a regular basis, it would make some people think, yeah, maybe I don't need to get vaccinated. So, yeah, the answer to your question is yes, I suppose. Yeah, I think they're not saying that because if they do, it will not everybody will get vaccinated.
Dr. Reed Spaulding, contributor to the American Spectator, practicing pathologist. All of the opinions he expressed are his own and not those of his employer, so he can maintain his employment. Dr. Spaulding, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. You guys have a good day.
Thanks, you too. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Connect with Dan and Amy using the AM 560 mobile app. Download it today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
The Lou Dobbs Financial Report is brought to you by Signature Bank, helping local businesses succeed. Visit signaturebank.bank for your commercial banking needs.
I'm Lou Dobbs. Wells Fargo calling staff back to its offices in September. 770,000 Ford Explorers are being recalled. Those stories next. I'm Lou Dobbs, and as you know, my friend Mike Lindell has a passion to help everyone get the best sleep of your life. He didn't stop by simply creating the best pillow. Mike created the new Giza Dream bed sheets. They look and feel great, which means an even better night's sleep for me, which is crucial for my busy schedule. Mike found the world's best